Well, everyone, you're very welcome to this funding clinic, I suppose you would call it. My name's Damian Smith. I'm head of literature and drama at the Arts Council. I have my colleagues with us this afternoon. The voice you just heard was Noreen McKinney, who is the Director of Arts Development. And we also have Leanne McGee, who's the Digital Content Officer, who'll be helping to guide us through the information that's available today on the Individual Emergency Resilience Programme, which is what the scheme's called. So we've got 2 hours allowed for this session, so it may not take 2 hours, but if it does, well and good. We've got that time available. So we should be able to cover everything that we need to, we would hope. Anything that we don't cover, or if there's something that comes up that you want more information on, or that there's something you think about later, come back to us by email, whatever, and we'll try to pick it up. Also, we're recording this session, so that will be available online, and also we'll be taking a note of the questions and the answers, so those will be made available as well, or a mixture of all of the sessions, so that we try to cover as much ground as possible on that. If you can keep your microphones on mute, if you wouldn't mind, just to cut out the risk of background noise. The huge Labrador that will no doubt make an appearance at some point during the call. There's a chat function as well on that'll be available, and I think Leanne will keep an eye on that, and we'll try to pick up anything that's coming through on that's being typed, as well as questions that are being asked at the end. We'll be doing a Q&A hopefully at the end, once I go through the guidance notes and the frequently asked questions, which have been available, as I'm sure you know, online for over a week now. So the scheme officially opened yesterday for applications. It's completely online. So some of you may have had a look at the format of the questions, of what's being asked, what it looks like online. And that'll be closing in, what is it, the 7th of January? Will be the closing at 4 p.m. So the best piece of advice to start off with to anybody is, don't leave your application to the last minute. Don't leave it to the last day. Don't even leave it to the last week. Get it open, get your registration number, reference number, make your adaptations as you go through, and then finalize it as early as you can. It's going to be a very heavily subscribed scheme, and all sorts of things can happen with digital access, and with trying to get systems uploaded, and you trying to upload things that maybe won't work easily, and all the rest of it. So leave plenty of room on this one, because there will be a lot of people trying to do the same. Okay, so what I think we'll do, if we've covered everything so far, is we will maybe get the guidance notes up there, Leanne, and then share that screen, and then I'll walk through that as best I can, and then see if I can anticipate what might be issues as you're going through. Well, there it is, Individuals Emergency Resilience Programme 2. This is for those working in the creative economy, including freelancers, musicians, DJs, actors, and so on. Opens the 17th, closes the 7th of January at 4 p.m. All awards will have to be completed by the 31st of March. That's the nature of all the COVID-related emergency funding that we've been putting out. So that's something that you should bear in mind when you're making your application. There won't be anything overrunning that period. If you're thinking about projects or training or any kind of development, it won't be running along, it won't be running beyond that particular period. So there the objective, the overriding objective of the programme is to retain a vital workforce within the creative sector. This is about sustaining practice, retaining capacity on an individual level, hopefully trying to limit the need to move outside the sector to earn a living, because that would be not good for you as an applicant, and it wouldn't be good for the sector to lose those skills. These are all arguments and insights that are well understood now, I think, right across the whole of society. So the program's designed for anybody who can evidence that they've been working in the creative sector. Basically, that's your principal eligibility criteria. So you're looking at venue staff. We'll come up in a list of some of these later on, but it's venue staff, it's DJs, individual musicians, it's freelancers of any type, creative professionals, people who have technical skills in the sector. And there's also possibly a means of helping individuals to move across or move through to other skills over the period if that's needed. Applications will obviously principally be from individuals, but it is possible for groups to apply. You could have a musical group could apply, but there will only be one applicant applying on behalf, and individual musicians who might be band members or of that type could apply individually themselves. Now, you'll have heard people talking about how many individual creatives have fallen through the gaps in funding, that it hasn't been always possible for people to identify the right scheme that might suit them. And even when they do think they've found a scheme, it turns out it doesn't suit them at all and they're not eligible for it. So this program, part of this program is to try to plug those gaps for individuals. So those who haven't been able to access other forms of financial support from government or other sources of support would be asked to indicate that on the form, so that we're aware that that's the case with their particular application. That doesn't mean that they're the only people who will get funded, those who haven't been funded through any other route before, but it is something that we want to know about given the anticipated high volume of applications and looking to put funding to where it's most needed at this time. So it's important that we find out that. Also, there were funding schemes that the Arts Council developed earlier in the year, way back in April, May. There was a program, an artist emergency program, which had a much narrower remit, not much narrower, but narrower remit. And there were some awards made then, a couple of hundred, and the Individuals Emergency Resilience Program, one which was operating there about a month or a month and a half ago, also was giving out awards based on need at that time, and in the broad footprint that we're now talking about people who work in the creative sector. There were 1,400 applications to that scheme. And I think the awards that were made amounted to close to 4 million. So there was quite a bit of take up. There were quite a lot of successful applications there. So I think that was a good model, and that's the model we're using on this occasion. Some little tweaks. So the fund, as I say, is aimed at workers in the creative and arts economy, in whatever capacity. And there's a list there. You can see that's not the full list. It's just an indicative list, but it'll give you an idea that in and around all those types of career is the area that we're looking to receive applications from. Last time out, we had a whole range from stagehands to lighting technicians to comedians, drag artists. We had people who had were multi-skilled entertainers who made their living from the arts and creativity. So the value of the award is maximum £5,000. You will make that request according to what it is you assess your need to be at that time, and you'll build that up through the other questions that we ask, but you'll have an idea what it is you lost, or what you think you might have earned, or what your need might be at this particular time in order to develop and build your sustainability and capacity. So you'll be asked to state how much you're applying for, up to 5,000. For deaf and disabled people and applicants, there is a potential 2,500 in addition to that 5,000 that can help for particular assistance or other support that people will need in order to develop their career. So that's an important item to bear in mind, because you'll be asked that on the form too if you have those particular needs. That'll be fine. Basic eligibility, over 18, living in Northern Ireland. There are schemes for other people who are from Northern Ireland who are living elsewhere. There are schemes elsewhere, but this has to focus on those who are living in Northern Ireland. Applications are exclusively online. All the questions should be answered. So even though you're asked for a separate CV, statement about your career, you're still expected to respond to the question about how do you operate in the sector? What is it you do? So you put that in the form, on the form, and you will augment that with the CV. You don't know what, I mean, not everybody is as familiar with CVs as other people are. You know, a CV is basically a description of your career. And, and bullet points would be sufficient, just to say where it starts, what, how it has developed, what you're doing now, where you've done it, how long you've been doing it for, and who you've been doing it with. Those sorts of police questions, if you like, would be the kind of thing that you would want to put on a CV. And a statement then about your, your view of your role in the sector and what it is you do. I think that's important. That's part of the evidence that we'll be looking at. The other aspect of that is a reference. And you'd be looking to get someone who knows you, knows your work, has some experience of what you've been doing over a period of time, who will confirm, in the first instance, will confirm that you are who you say you are this person and you've been doing these things. You know, we're not going to know every applicant. We're not going to be able to Google everybody. We will be simply looking for someone to say, yes, this person has done it. Now, the other advantage of that is, if possible, that person, that reference might be able to indicate loss of earnings as well. Maybe to say, this could be a venue manager, someone who's booked you, or some other professional that you've been working with. You will say, well, you would have expected to have been working alongside you over a period of time on this project or that project, and the earnings would have been in the region of, or whatever. Those things are just confirmatory. It was suggested earlier that you might even draw up a pro forma reference that can state, what you would want the sort of thing we're asking for, and get someone to say, look, if you agree with this, could you sign it? And that would help as a reference. Again, not everybody has the time, especially at this time over Christmas and all the rest of it. So it might be something to consider. But they'll need to sign it, and they'll need to have some identifier, like, if they're a business that have a logo or some other kind of official identification or signature on an email, for instance, if it is an email. If it's a letter, we would have it PDF or photographed, but we do need it signed. It needs to be signed in some form in order to come through. And that's really just about supporting your role in the sector, and possibly given an idea of the extent of loss of earnings. So we're now down, we're at the reference and independent source. Yep, there we are. There are mandatory enclosures as well, which you'll see in the frequently asked questions document. We'll come to that shortly. We hold on to information. We're audited, and we internally and externally. So we do have to say, there will be questions asked, but well, how did that scheme get deployed? And then we'll say, well, it was done in this way. And there may be information and statistics that we'll need to present on successful applicants. We'll also be publishing the names of successful applicants because we're required to do that. So you need to keep a copy of everything you submit if you can, and as well as that, any evidence that you provide, you should hold on to that too. That'll be for your own records. Now, in terms of the tax situation, we don't have any advice or input into that. I mean, basically, that's going to be between yourself and your, as they say, your financial advisor will have a view, or the tax. Just ring the tax office if there are issues about this in terms of your earnings, and they'll be able to advise you on that. But it's up to yourself really how you manage that. The Arts Council will do an eligibility check along those items that I've just talked about in your application. If some of one or more of the mandatory enclosures isn't there, like there's no CV or there's no letter, for instance, reference, the application won't be complete, and so it won't be assessed. And we can't go back. The volume of application is likely to be so great, we just won't have the time to go back to individuals and say, you've forgotten to enclose a CV, or it hasn't uploaded properly or something. So the best thing to do is to make sure, that's why get onto it early, make sure that all these things are going up. Now the mandatory enclosures also are listed on the guidance notes, and you'll see the way that it's described there. So we would then issue a notification. We'll acknowledge receipt of your eligible application, or we'll advise you that it's ineligible. And once it's eligible, we will then move to assessment. And that'll be based on 2 items. And you may have seen this on the online form if you've had a look at it. Your role in the sector, your CV, your contribution to the creative sector in Northern Ireland, and involved in that too will be the reference. And the second element will be the benefit that this award will have on the sustainability of your professional skills. So you'll be asked, what benefit would this award have on your professional skills or creative development? So you'd be looking to think what benefit that might be. And I would say there, think about these things in the round. It's not just about, well, it is about training. It could be about training. It could be about managing to, access other ways. Think about what it is you've been doing, how your career has been going. It could be about not having to take on work that's outside the sector, and that might end up taking you out of the sector completely. It might also, though, involve those pressures that come on to everyone's life, which you won't be able to resist. So it could be childcare issues, it could be other care responsibilities, it could be mortgage payments needing made. It's those sorts of things are also part of the benefit of receiving the award, because those are things that, as with all of us, these all impact on the capacity for creativity. So I would look at it in the round rather than just being particularly sort of instrumental about it, if you like, about, oh, I want to access a bit of training here, there, or wherever. So those are very good project ideas, if that's what you have in mind. The Arts Council makes the decision about the awards. You will tell us what it is you think you need, and that could be up to 5,000. And then the Arts Council will look at the evidence you provide to support that, and we'll make a judgment call on the assessment. The criteria are marked on high, medium, or low, and we'll come to that later on. We'll, briefly, I will explain how that works. We go on to the next slide there, Leanne. There's your mandatory enclosures, CV, statement about your career, reference from independent source. There's a note there for students. They need letter and headed paper, saying that if they do get money, it's not going to go towards their education. It's not going to be part of the master's degree or whatever it is they're doing. If we move on, This is the standard stuff. We'll publish the full listings of the grants. We hold on to information that can be used by us, but also is there for verification purposes. Data protection, we will protect your data and safeguard it that way, and you have rights relating to that. Applying online. Now, there's just this one thing that we get to now, because there are BT Internet, Yahoo, and Virgin haven't proved to be very compatible with our online system. Now, the problem is with those providers rather than the online system. But it's not in every case, but there have been glitches. So you should just test that out if you're on with one of those providers. There may be other providers that may have similar issues, but that's BT Internet, Yahoo, and Virgin. So what we say or recommending is that if you are doing it, it might be better to set up something with Gmail or Outlook, which might make the access more easy. So I'm just saying that's a piece of practical advice there, which does relate also to how early you begin to interact with the online process. Is that done there, Leanne? Is that the end of that? Right, we're on to this is the frequently asked questions. There you are. When does it close? 7th of January at 4 o'clock. So if you're in the creative sector in any capacity, you're eligible for support. If you think, oh, well, I'm not really an artist, am I still eligible? Yes, you are. Absolutely. So there's that list, as I mentioned earlier, is indicative of the wide range of roles that there are in the creative sector. And all of them are eligible. So, I mean, I'll just as an example, because it does help, there were people whose business, a person whose business was promotion of arts events through promotional materials like flyers, posters, and so on. That was the entire business. And once those things stopped happening, there were no orders for flyers or posters, and the whole business ground to a halt. That was a livelihood. So there's an example that wouldn't be the first thing that would spring to mind if you think about the creative sector, but actually it's very much part of the creative sector. So it's as broad as that, right through to your artists, visual artists, actors, and so on. Training or mentoring, professional development, yes, that's eligible. Needs to be finished by 31st of March. Loss of earnings, absolutely. Again, that's eligible, and you will be strengthening your claim on that with stating the amount, and then also, if possible, trying to get somebody who can say, well, yeah, that would be the region of losses that have been sustained. Your own records would evidence that too. How long will it be? Oh, we'll come. Yes, equipment. Yes, you're able to get equipment, small scale equipment. It needs to be new, whatever it is that you're purchasing, whether it's phones or iPads or whatever. It needs to be new. Can't be reconstituted even. Need to be new, and we will be and keep your receipts on that and look for the best value on those purchases if you're going down that road. We'll be looking to make the response by February. So it's closing on the 7th of January, and we hope to have the decisions made by January, hopefully around mid-January. So that's a very, very quick turnaround. It's going to be a very big scheme, but it's an achievable deadline. So we all know what we have to do in order to get that turned around. So hopefully that will be happening mid-February. With £3 million in the budget for this, that's a much bigger amount, really, for individuals than we've ever had at the start of a scheme. The the last round of this, we had much less than what we ended up paying out. At this stage, we ended up paying out over nearly 4 million. But at the start of this scheme, we have a larger amount of money than ever before, which is 3 million. So we hope that that will be able to make a significant impact on need. Does anything that you do during it need to relate to COVID-19? No, it doesn't. There's a response there to what a CV and a career statement would look like. CV or a statement, but I've talked a little about that already. And you're looking at key dates, training received, length of service, and so on. The reference should be a short statement verifying that you've been working in the sector, employer, tutor, convener, promoter, booking agent, and so on. It should be signed, and of course there are extenuating circumstances now which prevent it actually coming in hard copy, but digital and typed signatures are acceptable. Okay, so there's a little bit more about that, just developing that. Can you collaborate with others? Yes. You would be one lead applicant though, and you'd be looking maybe possibly for the referee, if there's a referee, to be able to vouch for the collaborative unit that would be making the application. Can you apply if you're a student? Yes, you can. And then there's those usual caveats about student applications, which are fairly standard nowadays anyway. The benefit of the award, as I said earlier, what would that look like if you were to say what do I mean the benefit of the award? It could be as simple as saying it helps me to buy time from non-arts related work. There you are, in a sentence. Or it can help you to maintain a presence in the sector digitally or virtually, or it can help with training, or it can simply take the pressure off other aspects of life to allow you to focus and think and reflect on your creative development. I think all of that is in the mix, and that's all relevant. Now, can you apply to the scheme if you're currently in receipt of an individual award from the Arts Council? And that would be if you received an award in May, the Artist Emergency Programme, or IERP 1, or the Support for the Individual Artists Programme from a few weeks back. Yes, you can. You can apply. Not for the same application, or the same project, or for the same costs. So in some cases, people will have identified some loss of earnings earlier. You wouldn't be able to apply for those same earnings again that were lost. You would have to evidence that there had been fresh loss of earnings, if you like, in the interim if you applied under IERP 1. Now, as I said at the outset, the main thrust of this scheme is to try to plug the gaps of people who haven't received any support at all this year, and for whatever reason. So that'll be the first look we'll be doing, is to see how that question is answered, that this relates to. Have you received other support? And then you'll detail that. Either there's none, or you'll detail whatever it is, and we'll say, has this been answered? And we'll say yes or no. There hasn't been other support, or there has. But that isn't about saying that if you have received any support that you shouldn't apply, or that you'll be disadvantaged by that if you apply. These are simply ways of trying to unthread the different types of applicant who will be making an application at this time, so that we can focus it most effectively on where it's most needed, but also not to say that anybody who received an award in May has somehow had all their problems solved by £2,500 at that stage. It's an ongoing situation we're in, and we'll be looking at each organisation, at each application individually on its merits as it comes in. Is there an end date? As I said earlier, 31st of March is the close off. Everything has to be done by then. Right, there we are. Sustain the practice. Yes, that's good. Make condition. No, you don't have to do anything like that. If you want to, if that's what you're applying to do, because it may help to augment income elsewhere, that's fine. But you don't have to do anything like that over and above just what will sustain you. You don't have to provide a budget. If you're planning to do something, you don't have to give us a breakdown of what the cost would be. You'll just say, I want this amount of money to do this. And this is how it will help develop and sustain my career. There you have it. What type of evidence on the impact? Note from employer, any emails or correspondence about cancelled work, stuff like that. Medical statement, maybe. Those things. Universal credit, this comes up, and other types of assistance do as well. You just need to tell us that you're receiving that, or that's been part of what you've received, just as you would with other any other kind of support that's come through. So we don't, there was a question earlier, we don't provide lists of people who receive awards to the authorities who would then be looking at your, and cross-checking. We don't do that, but we do publish the names of those people who get an award. That's part of what what it's about in due course, and we'll be audited and all the rest of it in due course as well. So as I say again, anything that's to do with your own benefits or your own income, that's between you and your tax circumstances. So there we are. It's online only, and we have that little advice again about the service providers, the email service providers. I think, is that the end of that? It is, yes. We'll be updating those as well with any questions that seem to recur or any problems that seem to come up. I just want to do a very brief little thing, because I said I would, about the actual scoring bit, which is there are maybe 4 or 5 questions, or maybe 4 questions that you're asked, but 2 of those are the key scoring questions. And the first one of those is your role in the creative sector. That's where you say, what have you, what do you do in the creative sector? And then your CV will strengthen that, and if there's a reference, will strengthen that as well. And then we would mark that, say, high, which would be significant track record, say, significant evidence. Medium, which would be sufficient track record, and low, which would be limited. And if there's a low, really, it's going to be difficult to receive an award. So I think that, given the money one is not endless, so it's unlikely that a low on that would be successful. So it's really, and a low will refer as much to the quality of the evidence that you provide as it would to whether or not you've actually been working in the sector or not. It's up to you to provide us with that information. And that can be done through the CV, the statement, a reference. And I think it's important that you provide as much as you can for that reason. The other one then is the benefit. You describe the benefit. You'll be asked, what benefit will this award have on your on the sustainability of your career? And then you describe that, what benefit that would be. And I think I've outlined some pointers on that already. That it's not just about, well, I'll be able to do, I'll be able to retrain, or I'll be able to access this or that type of service, but also there are circumstances in life which impede my development and my sustainability. That means I need to go out and work outside the sector in order to get earnings. And then that's benefit is that you wouldn't need to do that, but that this resource, this award can help to defray that. And again, it's childcare, it's domestic costs, whatever those might be, those are all eligible. If those are benefit from that award, then you should say that. And again, that'll be high, medium, and low. You'll be asked about the loss of earnings. and have you provided sufficient information regarding loss of earnings and the negative impacts? And that'll be yes or no. That's just a yes or no. That's not marked or assessed. Similarly, the other forms of financial support from other government wings or other sources. Have you had that? Yes or no? And we'll just be ticking yes, they have, or no, they haven't. And I think that's it. And also to remember, tell us how much you want. There'll be that, there's that box where you tell us how much you want. And everything, that'll be your decision, how much you want. And you'll try to get every piece of information that you have then that will help to support that amount. And the better that's done, the more chance there is that you'll get that. So I think that more or less covers, I think, the process from A to Z, as they say. And hopefully, if you have any questions there now, if there's anything coming through on the chat function, then we'll be able to pick those up as well. And if there's anything that springs to mind now, then sing out, and we'll try to deal with it as best we can.
Thank you, Damian. Nothing on the chat, Leanne? No.
No, nothing yet.
Okay, so I'm sure you've got questions, so we will happily take them. Our Damian has done such a brilliant job that everything's crystal clear.
We have one question there, sorry. Just in the chat from Diane, do you need to have submitted your final statement from the previous funding?
Damian, I'll take that from an earlier IERP or AEP, or indeed if you maybe got a SIAP award from us. No, don't worry about that, because we'll have given you a completion date. So if you're not beyond the completion date, don't worry about it. You will obviously be putting in, if you have received funding from us before, you know what that was. And you know that we're prioritizing those who haven't. Doesn't mean that you won't get funded, but you'll sort of be in the second tier.
Yeah, I think there was a question there from Anne, I think, about if you work part-time or have worked part-time in the sector. I think, yes, all that's eligible. Any loss that has occurred that you might have been eligible for, that would be eligible to reference here, put it in. The difference between part-time and full-time, when it comes to freelancers, for instance, people who work freelance, is very hard to pin down. So wherever the work comes from, if it hasn't been there and it's been arts related or creativity related, that's eligible.
There's quite a few questions coming through there. Leanne, are you going to read them out, or can everyone see them?
I'm happy to read them out if you like, yeah. So
well,
the next...
Sorry,
go on ahead.
No, it's okay. There was one from Daniel McCartney there about this.
Yeah, just to share them and then...
Yeah, can I submit multiple references from different employers? Yes, you can. It doesn't just have to be one. If you have a few, that's fine. And if you have evidences around those as well about loss of earnings, that's fine too. Can you confirm, this is from Kate Arthur, can you confirm that this all has to refer to need up till 31st of March? You wouldn't count anything beyond it? Well, we're looking at really what can be evidenced as need that, or as losses that have already happened, if you like. And all we can do really is make an award that has to be spent by the 31st of March 2021. So what happens beyond that, Kate, I don't think we're in a position to even imagine at this stage, but this award certainly would have to be completed by the 31st of March.
You could tell us about what you expect, the impact to be ongoing. I mean, if you're not going to be able to pick up work, and I know none of us have a crystal ball, but things aren't looking too bright. you can certainly tell us about that, that you expect the impact, you know, on your career to be going on for because of your particular circumstances or the type of work that you do. But as Damian says, yeah, you know, whatever we give you, you have to have finished by the 31st of March.
There's a question there. As a member of venue staff, this is from Brona. As a member of venue staff, can I apply for funding for retraining in other areas? Absolutely, you can. That's eligible cost. That's sustainability. That's capacity building. Richie Ray, just to confirm, typed signatures on this occasion will suffice. Also, can I use multiple references? Yep, you can. On both counts, that's fine.
Can I ask a question?
I mean, the only thing I would say on that is,
Sorry.
yes, I just want to say on the multiple references, please don't bombard us. That would be the only thing. There's, you know, we really don't need 20, you know, but a couple of really good ones that attest.
Yeah.
You know, and the system actually mightn't be able to take them.
Yeah.
So just watch out for that. Have your best one ready to upload first.
Yep.
Sorry, John.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about the CV. I've been DJing for 30 years and making music for 15, 20 years, and I have multiple record labels as well. My DJing funded everything I do. I built a studio in the house. I was bringing people in to work with me and various things like that. On the CV, would it be handy for me to put links to what I've been doing, like my Spotify links, my music links and label and things like that there for you to see?
I think.
To be honest, sorry.
No,
Damian,
no,
go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. Well, I mean, I was just going to say, what you've just said there, John, I think is the beginnings of that CV. I mean,
okay.
You know, I mean, that is a significant narrative right away of your role in the sector across a number of different areas. Employer, studio, DJ, you know, music industry, professional. So there's quite a bit there already, even in that paragraph that you just spoke.
Yeah.
And I think if that would be sufficient, you could put in some key dates, maybe, in relation to that over the period of time that you're talking about. And as I say, that would be sufficient. And I think then if you get someone to do for you what I'm sure you might be doing for others, which is providing a reference for applicants, you might want to get somebody.
And the references can be from anywhere.
Yep.
They don't have to be from Northern Ireland, do they?
No.
Okay.
No, that's all very sound from Damian. I was just going to say, we can't promise we'll be able to click on each of those links and follow through.
I get you, yes.
It's all evidence on your CV, so that's good. And just an important thing to say in this programme, unusually, you know, for us as an arts council, is we're not assessing quality. So we're not, you know, we're not looking to see how, who's the best DJ in Northern Ireland, or what awards have you won, but that'll all be in your CV. It'll all be part of the, you know, the impact.
Trying to remember 30 years.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So the next one was from Ivan. Does any disability element in an award have to be spent before the 31st of March?
Well, you probably, Richie has left, you've probably seen that you can apply, and Damian went over this, of course, up to £2,500 more for your support needs if you're disabled. So I suppose technically, because the money has to be spent by the 31st of March, I don't know how that might extend on without, you know, particularly your project or your, it may be possible we might need to take that offline with you and have a bit more of a discussion about it as to how you would see that working. You know, that you might need your, you know, your support, but if it was paid for, it was still there, but you were using it beyond 31st of March. I'm not sure, to be honest. Damian might have a view, and we can certainly pick it up with you.
Yeah, I think in that instance, I think we would need to hear more about the particular application and what the needs were in relation to that. I mean, it's hard to come up with a blanket response to something that is going to be very, very specific. So put it all in the form was my advice. Say as much as you can about what it is that you're asking for at that point, where you're looking for that other support, and tell us as much as you can there, and then we'll take that into account.
Yeah,
I think there was a very good question there, actually, because I became aware of this even as I was talking about it. You have to make sure you answer each question on the online form. Noreen mentioned this earlier on at another session. Don't put C CV or C attachment or anything like that. So the question was about whether or not you need a CV and a statement, two things, or whether just one is enough. You need to fill in the box in the online where it asks about your role in the sector. You need to fill that in, whatever happens, and then you support that with a CV or another statement about your, you know, a statement about your role in the sector. But you have to fill in something like, I've been working in such and such in the sector for 8 years. And then you would provide a CV or a fuller statement of that, and the referee obviously would back that up too. So you don't need both a CV and a statement, a written statement, but you do need to fill in the application form with a sentence or two about what you do in the sector, and then support that with a CV or a fuller statement. Is that clear what I've just said, is it?
okay.
We have a question from Diane. She has asked if she can use the same reference from a previous application.
Yep.
Yes, you can, Diane. Yeah, indeed.
We've also got another one there from Emma Rose asking if you have to provide evidence of ineligibility for government support.
No, you just tell us, Emma Rose, we're not going to, put that on you. We'll be taking what you tell us on the form, at face value as you tell us. So, it's based on trust, and we understand that. We do have our little clauses, of course, about, keep receipts, and, all our grants are subject to verification on a sample basis. So not that everybody will be going out by any means to verify every single individual award we make, but there'll be a level, and we usually do it by random selection. So as I say, everything based on trust. There's a possibility that we might come back if you, for example, were selected for a verification. It's nothing to worry about, but you don't need to clog up the application with showing us your, whatever letter you may have got. Okay. Any more there, Leanne, in the...
Nope, that's us all up to date.
Okay, so open it out to the floor. If you've questions have occurred that you haven't put in the chat box, don't feel you have to do that.
We have another one just there from Ivan. Does the self-employed income support scheme count as support?
It does, yes.
Damian, is it if you've got that as a result of COVID? not,
Yep.
is
Yes,
that
yeah,
correct?
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're in receipt of that as a result of COVID, you know, there was a self-employed scheme, then you would say that, Ivan. Now, having seen this in the first round, there weren't any life-changing amounts of money being handed out under that particular scheme, if I remember rightly. So I would say don't be wary. Just tell us that you've received that. If you want to say how much it was, that's fine. And we will, but that won't stand against you, if you like. I mean, basically just, you know, but it is important to say that to us. And any other amount like that. I mean, I was quite taken aback by how little, how small those amounts were that were being paid out to people who had good income prior to COVID, and then on the self-employed allowance actually was very, very limited indeed. So I think we take all that into account when we're looking at these things, you know.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Diane. Good luck to you too. Keep safe. And obviously we don't want to keep people on a platform if you don't, you know, if you feel you've had enough, but we don't want to cut off either. There's Kate saying thanks too, so.
Okay, well look, well maybe if we've covered everything, just do, if you do have queries, you know, detail, do come back to us. The process of going through the technical side online will be something that you'll probably be trying to have a look at over the Christmas period. We will be back again, able to pick up on this after the break. But if you have technical difficulties, if there are technical difficulties, do try to anticipate those if you can. Try to upload as much as you can as early as you can. And then we'll see afterwards.
I just wanted to say to Ivan, if you even want to put your specific question in an email to us, we'll get Gilly Campbell to take a look at it and get back to you pre submitting an application if you're worried about how that element might work for you. So just to say that.
Yeah.
Well, you're all very welcome. You've been a very nice audience. Thanks to Damian. Okay, well, look, best of luck with your applications, and do get in touch if you need anything before the 7th, although we are taking a wee bit of a break. But do email and your queries will be answered.
Okay, folks, all the best. Have a good Christmas, everybody. All the best now.
Thank you.